Let us answer our sample problem. So this problem is the same as the problem used in the parallelogram method. So we have here two forces acting on a particle. Force A is 3 newtons directed north, and force B is 4 newtons directed 30 degrees north of east. Find the resultant force using the Polygon method. So our given, we have force vector A, which is 3 newtons north, and then force vector B, which is 4 newtons 30 degrees north of east. So our first step is to assign a scale that would represent our quantity. So we have here a centimeter ruler, wherein every 1 centimeter will represent 1 newton. So therefore, if I have 6 centimeters, then that would mean that the magnitude of the vector is 6 newtons. If I have 4 centimeters, then the magnitude of the vector would be 4 newtons. So therefore, our scale to use is 1 centimeter is to 1 newton. Second step is to locate our given vectors in our Cartesian plane. So we utilize Cartesian plane to visualize the direction of the vector. So here we have force vector. So we want to visualize the directions of our force vectors using this Cartesian plane. So we have here north, east, south, and west. So vector A is 3 newtons north. So wala tayong associated na angle. Pero meron tayong direction. So yung angle, wala lang siyang given angle. So since it is directed north, then it is a straight line going towards the north. So 3 newtons, so we need to count 3 centimeters because every centimeter represents 1 newton. Therefore, 3 centimeters will represent 3 newtons. So we have here 1, 2, 3. So this will be our vector A. So 3 newtons north. Next is to sketch the succeeding vectors. So we only have 2 vectors here. So therefore, vector B is our last vector. So vector B is said to be 30 degrees north of east. So 4 newtons, 30 degrees north of east. So if the vector is at an angle, exists at an angle. So we need to measure first the angle and then followed by measuring sketching the vector together with its magnitude. So let's proceed with our next step, which is to measure the angle of our vector. So sabi natin vector B is 30 degrees north of east. So kung mapapansin nyo, to compare the parallelogram and the polygon method, in parallelogram method, we sketch the vectors, we draw the vectors from the same initial point. So wherein that initial point is represented by the point of origin. So if this is a parallelogram method, then vector B will be drawn from this point, and then dyan tayo mag-measure ng 30 degrees and dyan tayo mag-sketch ng ating vector. However, since this is polygon method, so polygon method utilizes the head-to-tail method or the tip-to-tail method, wherein the succeeding vectors will be drawn from the tip or from the head of the previous vector. So, galing tayo dito sa vector A, our first vector, then dyan tayo, yan ang magiging, yung tip niyan will be our reference to measure 30 degrees angle. So, we have here our protractor and we already marked the 30 degree angle. So let us now draw force vector B. So force vector B is 4 newtons. So therefore, ayan na. So let's count 4 centimeters and that will represent 4 newtons B. And of course, we're going to align it from the tip of our previous vector to this 30 degree angle. So marka natin dito. Ayan. So, this will be our vector B, which is 4 newtons north of east. So, 30 degrees north of east. So, our next step is to close this diagram. So, this to create the polygon. So, we will need to close this, and that closure represents the resultant vector. So, the resultant vector is drawn from the initial point directed towards the last drawn vectors. Yung huli natin na drawing na vector. So, from this point, papunta doon. So, therefore, yung tail ng ating resultant vector ay andito, and then yung head niya is andito, directed sa last vector natin. And while you're sketching, you can already measure it. Kasi gumagamit lang naman kayo ng ruler, then you can already measure the magnitude of your resultant vector. So in this case, we have a measure of 6 centimeters. Therefore, your resultant vector has a magnitude of 6 newtons. So, ano na ngayon yung direction ng ating resultant vector? So, to find or to determine the direction, we need to measure the angle of this vector with respect to the east line. So, let us now use again our protractor and measure the angle of resultant vector with respect to our east line. So, let's zoom this in. So, kung makita nyo, it aligns the resultant vector aligns with 55 degree angle. So, therefore, our resultant vector is 6 newtons, 55 degrees north of east. So, ito na ngayon yung ating diagram. So, we have here force vector A, and then force vector B, and then yung resultant vector niya, when we add the force vector A and force vector B, so sabi kasi natin, di ba, vector addition is vector 1 plus vector 2, and if we have more than 2 vectors, then vector 1 plus vector 2 plus vector 3 and so on will be equal to the resultant vector. So here, A plus B is equal to R, which is the resultant. So 3 newtons north plus 4 newtons 30 degrees north of east will result to 6 newtons 55 degrees north of east. So this will be our final answer. So in our next examples, we will see how to perform vector addition with multiple vectors, more than 2 vectors.